Over the past several years, the U.S. government has made it increasingly more difficult for asylum seekers who cross our southern border to apply for asylum. Check out this clip.
The Biden administration is looking to potentially take executive action, making it harder to seek asylum. Under consideration, barring migrants from seeking asylum if they crossed into the U.S. illegally between U.S. ports of entry. Migrants would instead have to prove why they need to remain in the U.S. Acceptable reasons could include a medical emergency or fear of torture in their home country. The new action, if taken by the president, could put him at odds with his own party.
Now let's move on to what exactly. Wait, hold up. It's important for the people to know this, okay? Hold on. The U.S. enshrines the protections of the International Refugee Convention. This IRC was in place after the World War II. So basically what this law says is that anyone who arrives here in the United States is present here in the United States, no matter what their legal status is, illegal status,
cool, whatever. Hold on now, I'm cooking.
They can apply for asylum. So basically this means that anybody who enters the United States, no matter their race, regardless their national origin or their method of entry, they can apply for asylum. That's here in the United States. Okay. Go ahead, man. Okay, thank you. Tyrochi, we appreciate it. So let's talk about the difference between an immigrant who comes to the United States, a seeking asylum, and a refugee. So specifically, a refugee is someone who is unable or unwilling to return to their home country because of a well-founded fear of persecution based on race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion. Now, in the same flip side of that coin, those refugees typically are in their home country currently. So what a refugee looks like is someone who is in Cuba, someone who is in Panama, someone who is in Guatemala, El Salvador, Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan. They're in these countries and they are wanting to come to the United States versus an immigrant. Typically, they are here in the United States. Those are the two differences. So once the immigrant gets here, can file for asylum. So I hope that makes clear sense there. All right, so let's differentiate between the two. The asylum seeker, who is an immigrant here in the United States, versus that of a refugee. A refugee typically is in another country and they're trying to get to the United States of America. Usually that is the case. So they fit all the criteria that we just outlined: nationality, fear of persecution of race, religion, membership of particular social group, let's say the LGBTQ community. And so they typically identify with one of those qualifications for asylum seekers, but their status is refugee because they are not here inside the United States of America, versus an immigrant who is here in the United States. A lot of times they'll cross the border and they want to get apprehended by Border Patrol. Once they get apprehended by Border Patrol, they go to a detention center and then they could face that credible fear interview. Here's some key qualifications and requirements for an asylum seeker. For those who are mental health professionals who are providing immigration evaluations, this is just the basic synopsis of what it means to seek asylum here in the U.S. The persecution must be based on one of the following grounds: race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion. That's just the basis of it. Now, when we talk about persecution, what does that exactly mean? Persecution can mean a lot of different things. And so, the federal law definitely identifies what it means to be persecuted, but it gives a lot of leeway for our government to change it. So recently, I would say over the past 10 years, they've made it increasingly difficult for asylum seekers to claim that they are, seeking protection from gangs in Mexico, just to give an example, or they are seeking asylum, they are seeking protection from the cartel. And so the US government has made it increasingly more difficult for applicants to, use that type of terminology or reasoning for them seeking asylum. Government involvement. The persecution must be either carried out by the government of the home country or by groups that the government is unwilling or unable to control. Now, what that means is you have been marching, protesting, speaking out. You've been on social media. You've been hosting webinars and trainings and workshops and public speaking out against the government of that country or the state of that country, and you have been persecuted, you have been threatened. All of this needs to be documented, should have proof. And that is what that persecution, the fear of the persecution, if you were to return back to that country, could look like. Government involvement. So typically this looks like someone who is speaking out against their government from their home country, whether they have been active in marches and protests. They have been actively speaking out on social media, taking interviews, going public, talking about how they are against, anti their government from their home country. And then the persecution could look like in jail. It could look like being tortured. It can threats. It can come in so many different ways. And again, that persecution is very flexible and up to our federal government to identify if that is credible. Another qualification could be fear of persecution. So the person has not actually experienced the persecution, but based on the climate in their home country and how they identify or what their position is, there's a high probability that they are going to feel or be persecuted if they return back to their country. So there are some countries that are just totally against homosexuality or the LGBTQ community. If they were to return to these, let's just say a Muslim country where it is just extremely frowned upon, they could be stoned to death. They could be unalived in some type of form or fashion. And so, that could also be a credible fear or fear of future persecution. They haven't experienced that persecution, but based off of the current climate in their home country, they could definitely experience that. The last thing that I want to talk about, there's so much that goes into asylum, but the other issue that I want to talk about for those who may be applicants or interested in if they qualify is criminal background. Felonies on your record can definitely hurt your chances of becoming a U.S. citizen or just gaining your residency. Like it can prohibit you so much. So it's very important that you keep your record clear and you do not get any trouble drinking and driving. You don't get in any trouble while you're going through this legal process, or you're thinking about going through the legal process of gaining citizenship or legal status here in the United States of America. Don't get in trouble. You cannot afford to drink and drive. You cannot afford to have a domestic violent call on you and the police come out and they pick you up. Charges dropped, it doesn't matter. You're undocumented and the federal government will see that, and ICE can definitely apprehend you and pick you up. So stay out of trouble, no felonies, stay out the way. Make sure that y'all click this next video to continue learning.